Hello one and all, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is John Clare. The channel you're watching here today is Graffik Content, and I would like you to know that you are very welcome. So today, what do I want to talk about? Well, this is my first foray for quite some time into YouTube. The reason for that is because I'm a world-class procrastinator, and I've been very protractedly mulling over the idea of doing YouTube for quite some time. I've dabbled with it beforehand, but it wasn't necessarily successful. Maybe because I wasn't necessarily coming at it from the best place. Let's just say it wasn't a great period of time in my life at that point, and I don't think necessarily going online and just shouting at people you don't like is the best way to introduce yourself. So it's been a few years since then. A lot of water has passed under the bridge, as they say. I thought it was time now finally to kind of get on with it. You know, I would like to do something on this platform. And when I say do something, I mean make a positive contribution, do something that's useful both for myself and for the audience that I hope to garner. What I'd like to do essentially is just share my passions. I'm very passionate about art, not bad at it either, can draw reasonably well I think. I don't think there is any such thing as talent per se. I believe it's more aptitude than talent. And what I mean by that is like, you know, the things that you're interested in are things that you develop and hone over time, and you inevitably get better at it the more you do it. And I've been drawing more or less since I was very young. You know, I'm nearly 40 years old now, so I think I'm a fairly decent standard at this stage. And recently, and when I say recently, I'm talking about the last 4 or 5 years, I've got into photography as well. I mean, like a lot of people, I started off with my iPhone. You know, I felt that it was quite limiting, even with the progression of cameras on mobile phones. I mean, like I've got an iPhone 11, not the 11 Pro, just the 11. I'd go as far as to say the cameras are exceptional. There's a lot of things that you can do with mobile phones, but even still, I don't think there's any substitute for a big sensor and a lot of glass. I started off getting a Canon M3 about, I think 4 or 5 years ago, because I wanted to kind of push it a little bit and really enjoyed using that, kind of progressed a little bit. I wanted to get a camera with a viewfinder, like a proper light, so I could put it up to my eye. So I gave away my Canon M3 to a friend of mine, Oisin Urwin, who's actually a pretty talented photographer in his own right. So I'll make sure to link his Instagram channel down below so you guys can have a look. So I gave that away, got the M50. Was very happy with that, I still own it. And the camera I'm filming on now, I got the Canon EOS R. It's my first full frame camera. I've got the 24-105 on it right now. And yeah, I love the thing. I mean, I know the R5 and R6 have just been announced and are about to be released, and they look like fantastic cameras. At this moment in time, it's like I'm in no rush to upgrade this camera, mainly because I can't afford it. This was quite a sizable investment for me, and I want to get as much as I can out of this camera before I even think about getting another body. I mean, I'd probably get more lenses for it. I understand that there's a 70-200 f4 coming out at some point in the near future, so if that does come out and if I can afford it, I'll probably pick that up. But yeah, I mean, photography is something I want to talk about as well. And also I'll be using my cameras to like film YouTube videos and stuff like that. But in terms of my art, up until, so again, fairly recently, probably around about the same time period, I got myself an iPad Pro. At the time it was the first generation 9.7-inch iPad Pro, so it was quite small. But I got a good 2 years use out of that, really enjoyed it. Getting the 9.7-inch iPad Pro was a bit of a revelation for me. I mean, it really kind of helped me kind of get to grips with Procreate as a program, which I think is fantastic, and I still use now. I don't have the 9.7-inch iPad Pro anymore. I also gave that away to a young artist from Dublin, a girl called Saoirse Kavanagh, whose Instagram I'll also link down below because I think she's a very talented artist. And you know, it's always good to kind of point people in the direction of fellow artists because it's tough getting an audience. Like I said, I gave her that because I got this. This is the 2018 12.9-inch iPad Pro. I got this as soon as it was released, basically, as soon as I could put a pre-order down, and I did. So that's it there. I still think it's an absolutely amazing piece of kit. I mean, I know that there's been a new one being released in the last few months. From what I understand, there isn't that much of a difference aside from some new cameras in the back of it there. But I mean, let's be perfectly honest, people, who the fuck takes photographs with an iPad? Is it something that I feel that I would want to break the bank for in order to replace? I've got to be honest, the answer is no. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you had like an older one from like say 2015, the first generation of iPad Pros, yeah, okay, that makes sense then. But if you're coming from this one here, unless you're one of these tech YouTubers who make a living from reviewing tech, I don't see the point in it really. I think it's a complete waste of money. So I'm going to talk about art, photography, and other things as well. I mean, we'll see as the time progresses. I don't really want to pigeonhole myself too narrowly just yet, because I feel that there's a lot of room to grow, you know, and if I keep working at this, I think it could be quite an interesting project over the next little while, and hopefully I'll be able to garner an audience that will enable me to try out different things and kind of push my artwork in ways that I wouldn't have been able to before. So on that note, what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you my office. I will bring you upstairs. What we'll do then is I'll demonstrate one of the pieces I recently finished and talk about that a bit more. So yeah, if you just bear with me a moment, please. Okay, so that's about right there, isn't it? Okay, cool, excellent. Okay, so welcome up to my office. This is where I do a lot of my work, whether it be photo editing, video editing, drawing, other bits and pieces. So yeah, just to give you an idea of what I'm operating with. The main focal point, obviously, what I like to call the hub. This is my i7 iMac, 2017. It's got the Radeon 580 Pro graphics. It's still only like a quad-core processor, but you know, it's powerful enough for what I want it to do right now. I mean, if I'm ever fortunate enough to be in a position where I can upgrade it, I probably will. But as of right now, this thing it does the job for me, and I'm pretty happy with it. I have my Canon IP850 printer that you see up there. I've printed off on that, and I've printed out some of my photographs as well, which I don't have to hand at the moment, but hopefully I'll be utilising a lot more. So say if I was able to do giveaways or to sell prints and stuff like that, this will be the kind of main engine for a lot of that kind of thing. I've got some external hard drives here where I like to keep as much off my main hard drive as possible. So when it comes to like videos and photos, especially raw images, they take up a lot of space. Especially if you're doing time lapses, they can take up a huge amount of space very quickly. So what I tend to do is anything that if I don't need it, I'll get rid of it. And if I do need to keep hold of it, it goes on my external hard drives. I do have other bits and pieces, but I'll show you them as and when it's relevant. So what we'll do now is I'm going to show you a piece that I completed recently and go over with you exactly what I was doing, how I did it, my kind of thought process behind it. So I'll show you the piece now. Bear with me. Okay. So I did it here on my iPad Pro, where I do a lot of my drawings these days. And the program I used, as I said before, is Procreate. I do also use Adobe Fresco, very good program, but I could only really recommend it if you had an existing Creative Cloud account. Do not, under any circumstance, get Fresco if you just want one program, because they charge you something like 10 euros a month. You can get Procreate for like 12 euros or $12 or something like that. So it's a very difficult sell unless you're already invested in Creative Cloud, which I am. So it makes sense to have it. But I will say it's a fantastic program. I just wish it was a little bit more accessible and affordable for people. Like Procreate is one I've purchased. They update it regularly. If you've already bought it, you don't have to pay anything extra for it. It's a fantastic program. In terms of pure drawing, it's phenomenal. Really, really good. So anyway, this is the piece I did. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna zoom in as a bit of a transition, and then we're gonna go into the time lapse. And here we are. Okay. So this is the time lapse of my drawing, which I like to call Human Condition. As you can see here, I'm just starting off the initial line work to build up my skull, and you know, adding in a bit of shading here and there, because I tend to shade using cross hatching, using fine points. I don't tend to block shade too much because I like to have greater control over the shades I'm trying to achieve. So if something's dark, nothing's ever outright dark or outright light, so it's kind of good to try and build I find it easy to build my shading over time. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm kind of just adding things here and there, bringing out highlights, as you can see what I'm doing there, and you know, just adding detail. The more I work honing things in, so if something's a bit too wide, I'll tuck it in. If something's a bit too narrow, I'll widen it out or whatever. So yeah, I'm currently working around the eye sockets and the nasal socket, and just kind of like building out the shadings. It's all very kind of technical stuff because there's a lot of detail in the skulls. a hell of a lot of detail. There's a lot of finicky little things, little kind of nooks and crannies, which I find very interesting to draw. I mean, I think skulls in general are quite interesting to draw. They're what we look like when, you know, all the flesh is melted off of us, and that's what remains, you know. And I don't want to sound too macabre about it, but I just feel that it's kind of it's a fascinating subject, and it's the reason why artists over so many generations have continually revisited this subject. And you'll probably notice on either side of the skull there, that's actually the base of the brain case. You'll probably notice that later on I actually get rid of it because I thought it fucked up the symmetry a little bit too much. I wasn't too happy with it, so I thought, you know, I'd get rid of them just to keep the symmetry, because part of art is not just necessarily trying to accurately recreate everything. It's also very much about kind of knowing what to keep, also what to take away, you know. So if it doesn't necessarily work within the frame of the drawing, then you get rid of it. So, right, okay, at this moment in time now here, I'm just kind of adding bits and pieces, adding more details, all cracks and like all little holes where the blood vessels and the nerves might go through. And, you know, adding form to it, you know, by using my shading techniques and everything else, honing the details in the teeth. Teeth are actually quite interesting to draw. I know it sounds really weird, but especially with skulls, because you see where, you know, over this person's life, you'll see where the teeth are kind of been worn away, and, you know, where the enamel isn't quite as thick and little striations and stuff like that. I think it's quite interesting to draw. And yeah, so I'm going down into the molars now, just kind of like shading stuff in. But again, I mean, this is all quite technical stuff. It's all very, you know, it's quite difficult actually, you know, to try and kind of make it look like actual teeth. I mean, representing something is very hard, you know, trying to make sure it, you know, it accurately depicts what it is that you're trying to create, you know, whether it's from the reference or not. I mean, yes, everyone uses references, and there's no kind of easy way around that. I think you do need references in order to kind of accurately depict what you're doing. I mean, whether it's like drawing from real life or whether it's using photography, you know, you do kind of need both of those things in order to kind of create what you're drawing. I think it's very important to kind of make sure that you've got some sort of reference there, so you don't have these shonky proportions and obscure details that you know, because I always think like it, you know, people who draw from memory, I used to be very much like that. I used to think, yeah, you're not an artist unless you can draw from memory. But, you know, as I've got older, it's like you do need these references, because drawing from memory, more often than not, you're sunk. You know, you miss out on so much. So it's good to have references, and it's good to work from them. I think it's kind of important. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much done with the skull now. I think I've come to the point now where I'm very much done. So, you know, you'll see me kind of shading in all these other little bits and pieces here and there, kind of like honing details, you know, making sure I'm happy with things. And yeah, I think we're there now. And then we're going to switch to me drawing the crow, which is here. Hell is empty, all the devils are here. I like doing quotes at the start of my drawings, which usually feature the time lapse, because this usually kind of sets the mood for the drawing itself. But this was actually an earlier drawing. I did this about 2 months beforehand, before the drawing of the skull. So, but I ended up incorporating into this drawing as kind of a collage, because it's a subject that, again, like death and mortality, you know, because I know I mentioned my age earlier on in the video, but I think as I've got older, it's become something of a kind of theme for me, especially in the last couple of years, you know, because of, you know, feelings of depression or sadness, you know, and, you know, you're thinking about your own mortality. You know, that sounds kind of morbid, but, you know, maybe I'm a bit of a morbid person down, you know, deep down. But, yeah, I'm just kind of drawing. I mean, yeah, I think the subjects of crows and you know, being messengers from the afterlife, and, you know, carrying your soul, you know, to Valhalla or whatever heaven you believe in. You know, I like that kind of mythology. I like that kind of how we tell those stories and how they're kind of incorporated into, you know, our artwork, whether it be like comic books or stories, you know, books, movies. You know, crows are very powerful symbols that we've kind of incorporated into our mythos. So yeah, I mean, I like drawing. Plus, I like drawing crows and corvids in general, crows and ravens and magpies. You know, I think they're quite interesting birds. They've got personality and they're, you know, incredibly intelligent as well. And yeah, so here we are now. I'm putting this crow on top of the skull and kind of shading underneath the crow to make it feel like it's actually planted on there, actually drawing in little details under the feet to indicate that, you know, its claws are on top of the skull. And I've kind of blacked out the background now. And this is kind of just like, I know there's simpler ways of doing this in terms of kind of like bringing the black into the edge of the drawing, but I always feel like computerized methods to do this are a little bit crude. And with this, is, you know, doing it by hand, it's a little bit more, you can kind of ensure that you're kind of getting the look that you want, or that you're trying to achieve the effect that you want. Because it's easier said than done more often than not. I don't know, it's not always easy to kind of entrust everything to the computer, no matter how sophisticated it may be. You kind of got to use your own eye and use your own judgment. So that's what I'm doing here now. I've done all that, I've kind of blacked it out. Now I'm just starting to kind of tidy up around the edges to kind of blend it in a little bit better. And that's basically it. It's me essentially finishing it off. And that's that. Okay, so you just heard me talking a bit about, you know, my drawing and my technique and, you know, how I do what I do and why I do what I do. And hopefully there'll be a lot more of that in the future. So if you have any thoughts or comments, I believe down below there is a section where you can do that. If you like to hit all the necessary buttons down below, your likes, your dislikes, your shares, your notifications, your subscribes. Subscribe's apparently a good thing, so, you know, I'd appreciate if you could do that too. And we'll see where we go from there, shall we? Thanks very much for watching. My name's been Jean-Claire. This has been Graffik Content, and you have been very welcome. Thanks very much. Bye.